get into it. Even though I'm not like actually that dark, I love, I don't know, I always represent my dark skin queens out here. Okay, we are right here in the middle. Again with this. Hello, welcome back. I'm not actually talking about you this time, so I guess you're good. Fucking not once, but twice. But I guess it's kind of relevant, I should say. But there is an intellectual war happening. And people are starting to wake up. And people are trying, like, there's also been a lack of judgment for being, I guess, a nerd. Because I am a nerd. I'll rep that shit till the day I die. I love nerd culture. I love movies. I love video games. I love pop culture. I love Star Wars. I love Star Trek. I grew up with that shit. I still have old Nintendo consoles. But I also noticed that in the black community, especially, a lot of people were getting bullied for liking those sort of things. But especially from the street niggas. Oh my god. Only for them to turn around and start becoming fucking Dragon Ball Z fans. Like, we all grew up with anime. Black people and anime grew up in the same household. It was mandatory. Like, if you didn't see Dragon Ball Z with your little cousin late at night, you were up until 3 a.m. watching Bleach and watching Toonami. Like, Cartoon Network and Adult Swim and Toonami, they were all in the same channel. Just late night, the anime would play at like 1, 2 in the morning because they didn't think your little badass would be awake by then. But we saw some shit. We sure did. We grew up in that era, and like, it kind of got to the point where being a nerd wasn't uncool anymore. Like, people used to get like bullied for liking anime. Now that's just become a part of our culture. Like, even the street niggas are making Dragon Ball Z references in their shit. Kendrick Lamar made a whole Dragon Ball Z reference in TV Off. That nigga went Super Saiyan while shouting out his producer. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot of people who are intellectuals, but the way they come off is very elitist, condescending. They look at the average person and they kind of feel like they're inferior to them in some way because, I don't know, they don't read a dictionary or an encyclopedia for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It's okay to be smart. That's the whole thing. It's okay if you're intelligent. It's okay if you're average intelligent. It's okay if there's a lot of dumb people out here. There's a lot of people who are book smart. They graduated from college, but just as dumb as a bag of hammers. Dumb as hell. Can't tell their left from their right, but somehow they have a PhD in fucking marine biology. And you're like, how? There are corporate executives that are working for Fortune 500 companies who don't know the difference between a desktop computer and a laptop, who don't know the difference between a hard drive and a graphics card. They don't know shit about, they don't know how to use their phones. Shit that they grew up with. They were old as hell by the time this shit came out, so they had time to learn. Who don't know how to use a snipping tool, who don't know how to send out emails. I'll throw my mom under the bus. I'm sorry, Mom. I have to. But there was a long period of time where I had to teach her how to use her own work computer. Even though she worked at a computer ever since it came out. She worked for the government for 40 years. Could not use a computer. It didn't matter if it was Windows 98. It didn't matter if it was Windows XP. It didn't matter if it was Windows 10. Didn't know how to use it. But I still helped her because I knew it. And I wanted to give that knowledge to her, but I also didn't want to belittle her and make her feel stupid about it, because I've had people do that to me growing up. People that should have been my mentors, should have been my teachers, that should have been my guidance through life. Instead of handing this knowledge to me, because they know that I need it. Like, they would give me the knowledge, but it was very backhanded. And if I didn't give them the answer that they liked, then it was, oh, you're supposed to know this. You're stupid. I can't believe this. This is so easy. How come you don't get it? A child could understand this. And like, that's not okay. Black people especially, as intellectuals, we have to do better. We have adopted this white man's mindset of just because we have the same intelligence that these white people have, that all the other black people are irrelevant. We need to get rid of that mentality, especially when it comes to our teachers. Like, you have the knowledge specifically to pass it to somebody else. That's how our culture has thrived, off of gaining knowledge and sharing that knowledge with the rest of the world, because knowledge is power. But it's all in how you give that knowledge that truly matters. But yeah, when it boils down to it, intellectualism should not be something that's used as a weapon, especially in the hip-hop space, especially when that same intellectualism has been weaponized against our people for so long. I just don't think that's fair. It's not fair to our own people, because that's not what our ancestors wanted. They wanted knowledge to be shared with everybody, not just gatekept to a certain community of people, because they understood how much power knowledge held, and they understood that how imperative it was to share that knowledge with the community, because the white people were trying so hard to keep it from them. So they're like, well, if they're trying this hard to keep it from us, it must be pretty important. Which is why even slaves, they revolted against it. They learned how to read in secret. And you know what they used to learn how to read? The Bible. They used the own white man system against them. Middle finger was like, oh, you don't want us to learn how to read? Well, we're gonna use your own text, and we're gonna spite you, and we're gonna learn how to read anyway. So that way we know what you're saying. That way you can't continue to hold us down in ignorance, and you can't continue to manipulate the masses, because there are people who speak your language now and can point you out for being crooked. That is the whole point of why black people started educating themselves, was because they were tired of being oppressed mentally. Alright, so I need regular whipped cream for this, and plum sauce? Plum syrup, I guess this is. Alright, and we're gonna strawberry. Bam. You want the chocolate shavings? That's pretty as fuck, actually. Alright, go on. Go forth and be great. 83. Lame. True music and true musicians who have a story to tell will always strive for that emotional connection, because it's the connection with the audience that truly matters. Because you could just tell somebody anything and, eventually they'll forget it. Because it's just information that's given to them. Like, oh, okay, sure, you grew up in this part. But if you're able to connect with them emotionally and take in that information, you can literally make that person feel as though they are living what you're experiencing. You can put them in your shoes, and they can see the world through your eyes, through not just the lyricism, but also the music and the power of written word. Poets have been doing this for ages, weaving words together so that people can literally see the world through their eyes. Literature has done this too. Fantasy, sci-fi, science, fucking romance. It doesn't matter. Action, comedies, even comedians. That's why they write their own jokes, because it's all based off of personal experience. Oh, yeah, there we go. And if they can't connect with you on an emotional level, then the message that you're trying to give is just words. It's just words on a beat. But here's the good thing, is that even if it is just words on a beat, people will apply their own life experiences to it and their own thoughts and feelings to it regardless. People will try to connect with it on an emotional level. And that's how you get different interpretations of different songs, of different different lyrics, I know I took way too long. My bad, Quinn. I know you're on a schedule, bitch. But like, fuck you. I'm trying to say some shit here. You rap like you have a sinus infection in the head, Cole. I feel like this is like the yin and yang right now. This is like the anger translator from Key and Peele, where like I'm being very neutral, very objective about things, and Noah's just roasting them. Just roasting these motherfuckers. Just, you know what? Roast away, brother. Roast away. You are very much entitled to roast as you please. The problem with intellectualism is not the fact that we have people who are intelligent in our culture. It's the fact that those people with intelligence want to gatekeep and isolate themselves away from the uninformed, instead of doing what knowledge was meant to do and gifting that knowledge to the masses. And they want to act like they're superior just because they have all of this skill and they have all of this knowledge, while also retaining a teaching position. So it's like, how do you... And then I could see sparks of it. I could see it. Because this is the one part of the Koala live stream that I paid attention to. And I could see the switch where Lupe was being very condescending. But the moment he got into his teaching persona and his teaching bag, the energy switched. It wasn't him talking down to somebody. It was like, it felt like he was addressing a classroom full of students and he was walking them through his thought process. I saw just the teeniest, tiniest bit of self-awareness in the way he teaches. And I'll admit, he's good at what he does. Teaching comes very naturally to him. But that is at its core the most important fundamental of teaching, is not making your students feel stupid when you're giving them the knowledge, walking them through your thought process so that they can understand the material the way you do. That is the point of teaching anything to anybody, MIT professor or not. And so the war that's happening here is that there are a lot, and I'll put Kendrick stands on the chopping block for this one. Y'all are the biggest culprits of this intellectual elitism. I'm sorry, K-Dot. Like I said, you're my baby daddy, but your music has created a lot of intellectual elitist motherfuckers, and I gladly read y'all to filth. When I was in Deleted Server, he asked a question. He said, who do you think has the worst stan base and why? I don't know, it was like, what do you think is wrong? What's your criticism of the Kendrick stan base? What is your problem with Kendrick stans? And I read them to filth. I said Kendrick stans are the most condescending, uppity, haughty, arrogant, elitist motherfuckers you could ever come across, because they think that just because they listen to and understand Kendrick's music, that makes them intellectually superior to the people around them. And I psychoanalyzed the fuck out of them. I was like, this is all just to satisfy some deep, dark, subconscious insecurities that they hold deep in the back of their minds. Like, understanding Kendrick's lyrics is some essence of that is some part of themselves that they feel they can grab onto. They grasp at whatever makes them feel superior, because they genuinely don't want to feel like they're not smart enough to understand. You see the behaviors on Twitter, the ones who think that, because they can overanalyze, or the ones that that liked Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers when it came out, that puts them above everybody else, because they're just like, oh, you're just too ignorant to understand, you're not opening your mind. You can tell people to open their minds all you want, but if you're going to be elitist about it, you're going to make people not want to do the thing that you're wanting them to do. So instead of gatekeeping and being like, well, you should be smart enough to understand this, why don't you just walk them through the thought process? If you want this knowledge to stay with them, the last thing you want to do is give it a negative connotation or make them feel ashamed to want to acquire that knowledge. Because now you've already sowed that seed of inferiority within them. And the vicious cycle continues and continues and continues. Intellectuals, especially intellectuals in the hip-hop space, it's time for y'all to break that cycle. It is. It's time to break the cycle of condescension and superiority complex and inferiority complex and being fucking judgmental and demeaning and dehumanizing people just because they don't share the same knowledge that you have. Because if we want our culture to get better, if we want to improve ourselves as a culture, it starts with us. It starts with us. We have to make that change. In the words of Michael Jackson, I'm starting with the man in the mirror, or rather the woman in the mirror, because my breasts are the size of Ohio. So start with the man in the mirror. Okay, we're using man as a gender neutral term here. Alphabet Mafia, y'all fucking settle down. Step off, you rabid hyenas. Start with the man in the mirror if you want to make that change. Michael said it. How is it that Michael Jackson knew this shit, but somehow fucking somebody who's Ivy League educated can't seem to get such a simple fucking concept? People who are college educated can't understand the simple concept of being a decent human. And people who are college educated are enabling and trying to explain away people who don't understand the concept of being a decent human being. It's not rocket science to be a good fucking person. It costs $0 and 0 cents to be a decent human being. You have all the money in the world, Lupe. What's stopping you? Why is it and that's why Jesus said it is easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God. Because y'all done let that fucking money and that status and that intellect corrupt you. And you think you're better than the common man just because you have all these things that they don't. But you want to scream and bitch and whine because, black people are still being discriminated against. Because white people are thinking about us the exact same way that you think about people that are not as smart as you. The sooner we get rid of this white colonizer mentality, the sooner our community can finally fucking heal. You can say that we need to heal as a society all you want, but if you're not actively doing your part, then it's just words. You're just screaming into the void. You're screaming at a brick wall, wondering why that bitch won't move. And then the people that have the construction equipment to move it, you're belittling them because, what, they're not college educated and you are? Last time I checked, you don't need a fucking Ivy League degree to fix a car. You don't need an Ivy League degree to drive a car. You don't need an Ivy League degree to fix toilets. You don't need an Ivy League degree to do hair or paint or make music or do literally anything, any sort of trade. Last time I checked, you don't need an Ivy League degree to do trades. All you need to know is about everything that specific field entails. It doesn't make you stupid just because you didn't graduate with a college degree. There's a lot of people out here with college degrees that can't even use that college degree because of this system that has been so systematically rigged against them. Having a college degree is useless nowadays unless you're pursuing something that you're genuinely passionate about. Because a lot of times they'll say you're overqualified for this position just because you have a bachelor's in business administration or you have a PhD in music theory, or you have a fucking doctorate or a fucking master's degree in psychology or in this. It is very, very hard to use the degrees that you worked so hard for in this day and age. Honestly, having a college degree is a privilege. You know how much money it is each semester, even with sponsorships and even with scholarships? Being college educated is a fucking privilege, when back then it was commonplace. It was common for black folks to be college educated. Now we'd be lucky if we even went to community college. But here's the thing, it's not about a lack of a degree or a lack of an Ivy League education. The real inspiration, the real muses of our society rarely come in the form of college educated, studious individuals. They come from people at the bottom. People who grew up with little to nothing. People who had very little resources and ended up making the most out of those little resources. People who knew that they were, that they didn't have as much as the next person. And instead of whining and bitching and complaining about it, they applied the knowledge that they had and they made something timeless. And they made something amazing. They made something creative. They made something impactful. And that's what I'm saying, like, credentials don't mean shit. You can be as college educated as the next person. But if you don't have the ability to really apply that knowledge and be something beneficial for our society, what the fuck do you have all that knowledge for? At some point, us as intellectuals, we need to stop asking ourselves what we have. We need to stop telling people what we have and start asking ourselves why we have it. Why do we have this intelligence? Why do we pursue this knowledge? Why do we pursue higher education? Why? And once you answer that question, everything else starts to fall into place. I'd like to give a shout out to my Ruff Riders, Tasha Shea, Prozac War, One Wildflower 93, Sweet Cookies, Beth Ann 0805, and Nessa Moon 2011. Thank you guys so much for joining the Ruff Riders. I promise I will make it worth your while. If you want to become a Ruff Rider, go ahead and hit that join button. It's as low as $1.99 to support the channel. You'll get access to exclusive content, all of my archived footage, and pretty soon I'll start doing members only lives where we'll do album reactions, reviews, anything of the sort. So if you want to become a Ruff Rider, go ahead and hit that join button. And as always, I have been Nixus, and I will catch y'all in the next video.